What's up, guys? Welcome back to OverTakes. This is Misfit, and today we are going to be previewing the Midseason Madness Tournament. We're going to talk about the 4 matches that we got on the slate right now. Then we're going to do a little speculation, a little crystal ball stuff. We're going to go through the bracket really quickly, and I'll give you my winner. We'll dive a little bit into the matches that we know about. I'll give a little speculation, some thoughts on my potential bracket matches and all that kind of thing. But before we dive into any of that, I'd like to thank all you guys for joining me. All you guys who have been supporting me for 1 day or 5 years, thank you very much. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. If you're new, just checking me out. I do Overwatch League content 2 to 3 times a week, depending on what's going on. Next week's going to be a little interesting. We're going to try and figure some things out with the matches going on every day of the week. So I'm going to try and do like a midpoint of the tournament kind of thing. We'll try and figure out something. Kind of a little midway recap, maybe readjust the brackets and all that kind of stuff. You know, the things that you do when there's a tournament. Okay, so we're going to dive into this. But first, there was one bit of news from the Philadelphia Fusion. So apparently a couple of guys have COVID, and they're quarantining the whole team separately. I've only seen one tweet by Philadelphia on this, so I don't know the extent, who's sick or what, but it said a couple of the players are sick. They're going to be okay. They're going to take care of them. But I don't know what that means as far as how they're playing this out. So obviously they're quarantining themselves, quarantining everybody separately in their own private areas and all that to keep them separated from each other. So we don't know what's going to happen with that. I don't know what the rules are, where they're at in China. I'm assuming they're pretty strict from everything that we've seen and heard. So what does this mean for Philly? I don't really know. It obviously puts a cramp in what they're planning on doing practice-wise and team communication and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you want everybody to be in the same room. It can be done not in the same room. It's happened. It can happen. Or however they're having them separated. I don't know if they're in the same building, but they're in their own private area. Hard to say. But that's going to be an interesting thing to follow to see what actually happens with that. I don't know if it puts a damper on where I would put them in the tournament, but it's something worth keeping your eye on to see what goes on with it, because it can affect gameplay and all of the things that when you're, playing in a situation like a tournament or even in a regular game, meeting with coaches, talking, going over strategy, it becomes a little different. It's a different dynamic. We'll see what happens. So we had that. That was really the only bit of news coming from tournament land. But as of right now, this is I'm recording this on Saturday. I got my system, got it up, got everything installed. I figured I would do it on Saturday after I had to learn a couple of things because some of the programs I wasn't running on. Obviously, I had an old system. My PC was I was running like on a 1060 graphics card, and it was a lot less viable than this one is. So I upgraded a lot of the programs. I had to learn some of them, of course. Video editing, audio editing, all that stuff. Just some new stuff in there that I wanted to check out. I'll dive in deeper into some of it, and obviously my hope and plan is that some of the video aspect is going to be a little bit better. I could do a little bit more with it and do some different things and enhance videos a little bit. So I think it'll be fun. All right, back to what the actual subject is, not my PC and all of that news. Not exciting to everybody. Exciting to me. It's but, obviously, you guys you're here for the Overwatch League stuff, so let's start talking about it. All right, we talked about Philly and their COVID issue, so we'll keep our eye on that. All right, this is what we've been waiting for, too. This is a all-out, full-blown tournament, 12 teams, losers bracket, the whole 9 yards. It looks to be exciting and fun. Would I have liked to have been live? Absolutely. I mean, of course, Overwatch League live adds a different element. It just excitement, all of the the player introductions, the crowd, all that stuff. It adds to the tension, all of the things, and it adds an extra element that some of these guys aren't used to. Things like LAN and other things that could, a challenge for some of them. But we got the international thing going on. 4 teams from the East, 8 teams from the West. We have one game in the first round that has East versus West, and that's Shanghai versus Toronto. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But there's some different styles and ways of going about the meta. Obviously, they're still playing on the May beta final patch. Obviously, the one with, super buff Zenyatta and Sojourn and a couple other heroes got nerfed and whatever, moved around power level wise. So we're still running on that. And there's a couple of major differences that I noticed, mostly in DPS. If teams aren't running Sojourn in the West, I feel like they're leaning more on the Hangzhou. East, they're leaning on Ashe. There's also the ball factor and some of that too, like the wrecking ball factor. And, versus Sigma, who's better? You might want Hangzhou versus Sigma. They play Hangzhou in the East. It's not as prevalent as it is in the West. And same thing with Ashe. You get a little bit of play. And I feel like the West is looking at Ashe almost as desperation, like everybody does with Sombra. We don't know what to do. Put in the hack girl. Let's do that. At least we could try and slow a Doom down or whatever. But the tanks obviously are playing a lot in the grand scheme of things, whether you're going against Sigma or Doom or Ball. It makes a big difference what you're running DPS-wise. I still think, with the skill level of these guys and the power level of Sojourn in this tournament, it's a hard sell for me. Hangzhou, all right. Ashe, maybe in certain aspects, but Sojourn is so good right now in their iteration of Overwatch. God, this is fucking complicated and annoying. Sorry for the outburst there, but for the love of God, I want them to be on the same motherfucking patch. Can we do that? Same game? Anyway, on that note, and I've been harping on this, as you guys know, Dante was just complaining this morning on Twitter about something happened. He's like, oh, I'll go practice unranked. Oh, no, wait. Nobody's playing the same game as I am anywhere in Overwatch. I'm paraphrasing, but there you go. There's my constant rant. It just gets annoying. Not trying to remember, but doing the... Okay, so they're playing on what everybody was playing at the beginning of the league on that beta. Okay, there we go. Now we're all set. Rant over, but I just like the way Sojourn plays, what she can do, and in some of these guys' hands is more valuable than a lot of people give it credit for, especially, you discount the spam damage, a lot of people, but I wouldn't do that. You can get a lot of value with her primary fire at that rate that's on that patch. And it does nullify some things if you're playing against a Reinhardt or you're playing against a Sigma. In bits, it takes down the shield. It's also easy to charge the railgun on the shield, but you can charge it on other people too. So if you have a situation where you're playing against a rush comp, say, you could charge it off of May. You can charge it off the Reinhardt. You could do a lot of things. And then railgun the people that need it, supports. Maybe a flanking tracer if they have that, if they're playing that. But I just like the way it works. Both sides of the pond also seem to be playing some Genji in certain situations. And I'm okay with that. Genji gives big value. If you're running, especially if you're running Ana, you got the Nano Blade, which generally is, in a lot of instances, a team fight W. Obviously, the Zen Discord and the power level of Zen does play a little bit into that too, or the other Ana. So I like the back and forth gameplay sometimes with the Genji in there. But there's a couple of differences, not as much as a lot of people really, really want. The one major difference is they definitely play a lot more cleaner version of a rush comp in the West, and they use it a lot more. Especially, obviously we got London, other teams will run it, Florida will run it, Atlanta will run it occasionally, and obviously Shock do a version of it. Everybody has a little thing. But the most proficient team probably in the East with rush comp I would have to go with Seoul, because they're the most proficient team on everything right now in the East. Shanghai's catching back up, though. That's something to look at. I don't know how their rush comp could be okay. I don't know if it's going to come into play, though. We'll have to see. And that's the beauty of two different areas with two different styles. The only advantage I say the West has over the East really is the amount of teams to play in different styles and different things you can focus on and learn from other teams scrimming them. You have a limited amount of teams to scrim against in the East, so it's not as, their meta is not as fleshed out. But a lot of these guys are quick learners. There's a lot of good coaches over there, especially the ones in this tournament. And they could, on a dime, with some of the players on some of these teams, be able to come up with something quick or mimic something that somebody else is doing in the West to counter it, beat it, mirror it, whatever. So I'm really interested to see what happens there, too. It's going to be a fantastic tournament, and we have it all week long, from Monday all the way to Sunday. I like that format. It's going to be drawn out, but the matches are all important, and that always means big things. If it was a live event, that would be fantastic. Obviously, I don't think they would do a whole week of live event. You probably would get the Friday matches into Sunday or something, unless they had another way that they were formatting that. But that's kind of my thoughts on where the tournament, what we're looking at when we're going in here, before we dive into the actual matches. So let's start diving into the matches. Everything starts Monday night. So here are the matches. They're not listed in order of the bracket. It's basically, since we have a situation where we have East and West teams, they're in two different time chunks, kind of, if you want to look at it that way. First match of the night is going to be the London Spitfire versus the Atlanta Reign, followed by Houston Outlaws versus Florida Mayhem. Then the next match, we move to the East, kind of, where we have our East teams playing. It makes sense a little bit. We have Shanghai taking on Toronto at roughly 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then the last match of the night is going to be Hangzhou versus Philly. So there we have the schedule. Let's dive into these matches. All right, let's talk. We'll go right down the slate. London, Atlanta first. These two teams, I think, are going to... This is going to be a fantastic match to watch. I think I said in the preview, I think this is probably the marquee match of the first night of the tournament. And I got to stand by that. London's playing fantastically. They have a lot of things clicking. Their DPS line is playing really well. Probably one of the more underrated parts of this whole team, you could say. A lot of people focus on Hottie, the chatty and all that stuff, and he's fantastic. He's playing Rhine really well, and he's playing some of the other heroes decently. You got Poco coming in and filling in for, on the Sigma and stuff like that. I like that. Atlanta, they've been running Hawk exclusively, so they have even him doing some of the main tank duties. Against Vancouver, it was a good thing to try. I like their thinking on that. We're going to let him learn against a team that we're vastly better than across the board, and he can learn a little bit more playing them than if we just threw him in the tournament and said, all right, you know what, you're gonna take over all the duties. I'm sure he's been practicing all the heroes, and I think this could be some kind of sign to come, because Florida had two tanks. They cut Adam, and they're just running someone. You have Smurf on Soul, and I think it's good to always have a backup. Some of these teams are running one tank more than the other, and then some teams are splitting time, like San Francisco splitting time with Kaluge and Mickey. There's a Wayback Machine. Mikey. I don't think Mickey's come back to play tank. Who knows? Maybe I'm right. Maybe Mickey's waiting in the wings for somebody. Who knows? He's going to go play with NYXL. A rumor has it. And he's going to play flex support because they need another one. Anyway, back to reality here. And Atlanta has possibly, one of the best Sojourns in the league in Kai. I think him and Merritt are pretty up there in the stat-wise and all of that. But it's a perfect hero for a guy like Kai. And you got to love that. And then you're running a double flex. Sometimes Ultraviolet and OG playing those really well and playing their regular heroes really well. Just doing what they do. Proving that they're a really good rookie duo. Not just on paper when they came in the league. They're looking fantastic. This is the second stage in a row I thought they looked really good. So there's a lot going on. I didn't talk too much about London support line with Admiral and the occasional Boned back. So London has that working out pretty good. I like their support line. They're a little underrated, I think, too. Landon's looked really good. And when Backbone comes in and does some of the Zenyatta stuff and they do double flex, that looks pretty good too. It's shaping up to be a good match here. What do I think? My thoughts? This one was the hardest one, obviously, of the weekend. For me, at least, from an objective standpoint. I'm on the fence with the Philly Hangzhou one because of like I said, the news with the COVID stuff, with the fusion. What do I think is going to happen in this? I think Atlanta, right now, has the experience factor, the tournament experience factor mostly, is what I'm going on. And they tend to up their game, kind of like Philly does in the East, or has done this year at least. There's certain teams like Seoul did in the past where they kind of had lackluster regular season and they get into tournaments and they perform well because of the players they have on their team. Atlanta's that kind of team. And with Kai and Venom playing the way they have been, I like that a lot. I do like the Spitfire. I think they're fantastic. I think it's going to be a super close match. Maybe one of the things that it could come down to is, for Atlanta, I'm taking them 3-2. And it's mostly Hawk, because I love the way he's been playing this year. He's become so versatile and really, really good at pretty much all the heroes that he's been playing. You know, a couple of the main tanks he's been a little spotty on, but you know what? It comes with the territory. I think where London has an advantage is the potential for that Atlanta to get baited into playing that rush mirror with them, because they smacked them around pretty good the last time they met. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think they got Atlanta, has things right where they want it. Now, there is map picking and things like that are involved here, where if London loses the map, they could bait Atlanta into certain things, situations that Atlanta doesn't want to be in. So there's that factor too. But I think it's going to be a super tight, super close match. I think it's anyone's game, and I'm going with Atlanta 3-2, and I'm going to throw the caveat of it wouldn't surprise me if London won. Next match, we have one that we visited earlier this year. We have Houston taking on Florida, and I don't think it's going to be much different than when they met in the playoffs before. I love Florida. They're my team, but there are a lot of concerns and issues that they have right now. So does Houston. But right now, Houston's playing in this meta with this comp that they've been running a lot of, where you have Merritt playing right alongside Kai as the top Sojourn in the league. He might even be ahead of him. Florida does have Eggsy, and they have Hydron on that. And Checkmate's been playing well. Someone's been playing decently at tank. Their support line is good too, Florida. Houston, across the board, though, I like their outlook better. Dante on Doomfist is fantastic. He's had his issues here and there, but if you counter him, you know, that's where it gets kind of dicey for Houston. But I think Piggy's picked it up. You put him on Sigma on certain maps, I think they have an advantage over Florida. I also like Lastro and Iris a lot more than I like Majed, Rupel, or Animo right now, depending on what's being run and all that. I just like Iris and Lastro better. They are honestly, what Majed should be looking at is how Lastro plays when he's playing flex support. Because there's a lot of times where Majed gets baited in a lot of stuff. He's over-aggressive. Same thing with someone. They both go on these tangents in flanks and just face-first dive into teams, and they get obliterated. And this is something that I think Houston can take advantage of, because Dante is an aggressive Doomfist, yes. But the rest of their team play, I don't want to call it cautiously. They play controlled aggressive. Lastro, Iris, Merritt, they know when to take advantage of things. And if you're going to give them an opening pick on a flex support every time, like is the case with Majed a lot, he's dying first way too much. I think the Outlaws will take huge advantage of this scenario. And also someone dies first a lot. I just look at the beginning of these fights and the way Houston plays. I just think Houston is going to beat them 3-1 in this and move on to the second round in the winner's side. Florida down to the loser's bracket. Next match, this is the biggest mismatch we have in the tournament right now. Shanghai versus Toronto. On paper, to me, the way Shanghai's been playing, it's a no-brainer to pick Shanghai. I just think they have so much more going for them right now. They have solid coaching. I'm not saying that Moby Dick is not a solid coach. It's implementing his plan. Even though he was coaching with KDG, it still doesn't mean he wanted to run the same exact things. So there's a lot of things going on here and there. There was behind the scenes stuff. They look okay at times. They have good players. And, it's the trope in this league right now that a lot of people, they have the talent, but they don't have the coordination and they don't have the direction. And I am one of the people that think that a lot of these guys are a little bit overrated, in fact. So going up against Shanghai with Lip and Fleta playing at a level that is like almost peak level of those two guys. Li Zhegan and Izayaki playing fantastic, and Fate in there doing what he does. It's just, to me, it's a on-paper mismatch, and I think it's going to be a mismatch. I'll give Toronto a map because I think that they could take a map from them somewhere in this match. So I'm going 3-1 Shanghai, just behind the sheer skill gap in nearly every position, if not every position. You could make the argument that Chorong and Twilight may be better with a double flex than Li Zhegan and Izayaki, but I'm not buying it. I still go with those two over them. So I have Shanghai winning 3-1. That one was pretty quick. There wasn't really much to say for me on that one. It was a pretty succinct pick. I just saw that matchup, and like as soon as they announced it, I'm like, that's got Shanghai written all over it. It's the first international match that we have this year and in this tournament, so it's going to show a little bit, I think, of what's to come as far as meta, which side is dominant. Like if Toronto happens to come in and beat Shanghai, then you got to go, well, maybe the West is better than some people like Avril and a couple other people are saying. It's a possibility. I don't think it's a probability. I think Shanghai is just far and away better than them. I feel pretty solidly with this one. All right, so Shanghai 3-1. Let's move to the last match of the night, where we have Hangzhou taking on the Fusion. And I think this is going to be a close match across the board. I don't know what's up with Philly. I originally had Philly winning this 3-2. I'm just going to put this out there. After watching them perform, and Hangzhou last week performed at a pretty high level and looked really, really good. Watching MN3 pop off and seeing how their coordination has gotten vastly better than it was 3 weeks ago even at this point. It's a fantastic coaching job. I think they look like they're kind of getting it. They feel more comfortable in the meta, however the meta is fleshing out over there and what they're running and whatnot and what have you. But you have guys on this team that have pop-off potential and on Hangzhou. The weirdest spot in this is I'm not high on either one of their support lines. Like going, oh, that's top X in the league. I don't think they're bad by any stretch. I think they're what you need them to be. I don't think they have the potential to overtake a game in a scenario like this in a big match shoe style, like he did last year in the playoffs. But like I said, serviceable, going to get you where you need to be. They're going to do what you need to do. Maybe here and there, a little potential for a pop-off moment, maybe on a Baptiste or a Zen or something like that. The fun matchup in this match is going to be, and it was the last time kind of, and Philly got the better of them. And that's the Zest MM3 Carpe versus Alpha Yi and Shy. I doubt you're going to see Architect in there, but we'll throw his name in there anyway. Unless Changoon is Changooning. It is a tournament scenario, so don't leave that out of the back of your head. You have Changoon. I'm going against everything in my body, but I picked him because I don't know what's going on with Philly. If everything was right with the world and they didn't have COVID and they were doing all that stuff, I would have Philly winning this 3-2. I think a little bit of turmoil and stuff with Philly, I think it might screw them up a little bit. Luckily, they know their opponent. They're not like going up against like the Gladiators or something like that, someone they haven't played yet. So at least they know Hangzhou. And there's always a possibility of them facing a Changooning. So it could work out. It could work out in their favor. But I do like most of Philly's team better than Hangzhou's at this moment. I think that DPS is going to be a fun battle to watch. Tank-wise, I think Bernard and Goushway and Fury and Belisariya is kind of a wash. It's the same thing with the supports. I would lean a little bit more on Philly on the support side, and I would lean a little bit more on Philly in the DPS category. I just want to see some guys pop off again. Watching MN3 go nutso on Widowmaker was fantastic. I love that. That was phenomenal. But we'll see if Alpha Yi and Shy have an answer to that. That's my thoughts on that last match. 3-2 Hangzhou. Only reason is the COVID thing going on with Philly. Okay, let's move on to the crystal ball. All right, so we have Atlanta, Shanghai, Hangzhou, and Houston. I think first pick goes to San Francisco, and I'm assuming they're going to pick Houston. A, they know them. B, they know they can beat them. And just really quick on that, I think San Francisco, if they pick Houston, we're just going as they do in this. I will take San Francisco in that 3-1, dropping Houston down to the bottom bracket for a rematch with the Mayhem. 2-seed Gladiators, I think in this scenario, I think they might go Hangzhou. Honestly. I think they're a team that they think they could beat, even though they don't know what they do, kind of, sort of. I think that it's more in their realm. And I think they beat them 3-2. We'll take Gladiators going to the next round. Third seed is going to be Seoul, and they have a choice between Shanghai and Atlanta. I'm going to say they go with Atlanta. I just want to see some more international matchups, really, is what it boils down to. So we'll say that. I say Seoul wins 3-1 in that one, moving them into the second round, winners round. And that leaves Dallas with Shanghai. Plus, that's a classic from last year, right? I'm going to go Shanghai 3-2 in that, moving Dallas down to the bottom. So elimination round, which will be on Wednesday. First match, rematch of the first round. We have London taking on Atlanta, and I'm going to go for the same reason I did before. I'm going to take Atlanta 3-2, knocking London out. Next match would be Hangzhou versus Toronto in my bracket. I'll take the Spark 3-1 in that, barring Changuning. So elimination round 2, I got Atlanta and Hangzhou working in that. Now for the first match in that part of the round. Next up, we have Dallas-Philly. This is going to be a classic. I am going to take Dallas 3-2 in a close match. I think Dallas has been improving, looking better. Philly, still up in the air about them. I still think Philly can make a big run, guys. Don't get this as me like shitting on Philly. There is a legit situation going on there. I don't know who's sick. So I'm using caution in these picks. I'm taking Dallas 3-2. And we have Houston and the Mayhem. Same result. I just think Houston's that much better than the Mayhem. And they knocked the Mayhem out of the tournament. So that takes us to round 2. Now this could be a match that could top them all, really. San Francisco and Shanghai. Ooh, I don't know about this one. You know, I'm going to show my West bias in this, and I'm going to go 3-2 shock in this, dropping Shanghai down to the losers round. LA Gladiators and Seoul Dynasty. You know, this is another one I don't really know what to think of. They rolled them the last time. I don't know. You know, I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm going Seoul 3-1. I'm just gonna ride profit. How about that? We'll ride profit 3-1s across the board. I'll probably lose that one, but you know what? As much as I'm being cautious, you also got to take a risk here and there. I'm going to take a risk at Seoul knocking the Glads down. And that leaves us with our first elimination round where we have Atlanta taking on the Spark. You know, I'm going to take Atlanta 3-1 in this because I think there will be some Changooning somewhere along the line, and I got to get rid of them. I also think Atlanta's way better than them. Well, maybe not way. I think they're better than them. A couple of different styles. They can do a lot more. They're pretty versatile. I just like Atlanta's look better than the Spark right now. All right, next elimination round. We have another Battle of Texas. I think Dallas gets their revenge in this one. 3-1. I'm just going with Dallas tournament scenario, skill level. They get better later. Houston does not. Houston tends to level off, peak early, level off, and then get eliminated. So I'm going with past performance on this, and I'm taking Dallas. That doesn't mean that Houston's not going to be in this game. Same thing with any of these teams. These teams are all fantastic. So especially when we're getting to this point, they're all up in the air. All right, winner's bracket. To go to the final, I am going to take San Francisco 3-1. I have a lot of faith in the Shock right now. I don't know if I'm on the juice or what's going on. Drinking crusty Kool-Aid. In crust we trust. All of the things. I'm on it. But I got them going to the final, knocking the Dynasty down to the last elimination match. All right, now to the next elimination. This is a big tournament, guys. This is a little bit longer of an episode, too. So, Shanghai, Atlanta, I'm going Shanghai in a close one, 3-2. They beat the Rain, still being a thorn in their side. Next elimination match, I think this is where Dallas meets their end. I think the Gladiators are just that much better than Dallas in a few areas. Mostly support line in some aspects. And I like Kevster and Padpan Ons. I'm liking that. Padpan's been owning on Sojourn as well. So I just like them a little bit more than Dallas right now. And that leaves us with the final elimination match, which will be Shanghai. Well, actually, not the final elimination match. Round 4 in the elimination. We have Shanghai Gladiators. Ooh, man, this is a tough one, too. Wow. You know, and I'm doing this on the spot, guys. I didn't pre-do this. I pre-did my initial picks and I'm doing it off the cuff on the fly here. Shanghai Gladiators. Oh, la la la. I'm going to lean on the Glads in this one, 3-2. It's going to be a tight match if obviously if this comes about. I think what it comes down to is Reiner's versatility versus if Fate can prove he has some, and if Void can come in and fill the gaps where necessary. That leaves us in the final elimination round match, the Dynasty and the Glads. I'm going to go Dynasty. I want an international final. I'm going to go Dynasty 3-1. Prophet is going to be, raring to go. He's going to have his playoff Prophet shoes on. Him and Fitz are going to tear some things up. They might neutralize Kevster, do some other things. And Stalker, can't forget him. He's playing really well as well. They're not a sleeper team, but a lot of people I think are overlooking them going, and maybe me included, because you see Shanghai playing better. You see familiars like the Shock coming back around. The Glads playing well. Dallas playing well. You forget that Seoul is playing at another level as well. So I'm taking them in the final against the Shock. Who do I see winning this? I could go either way on this, but you know what? I'm going to go Shock 3-2. Shock come back and win a tournament. There we go. I got the Shock winning the tournament. Hopefully it all comes to fruition, and I'm saving this, guys, as my... 4-3. I'm going 4-3. I forgot this is best. Final's always best of 4. Okay, my predictions are in. Final, I have Shock taking on Dynasty, Shock winning 4-3, in a match for the ages. Let's just call it that. I always pick good matches, except for when, it's blatantly obvious for some reason. I have faith in the not 3 Overwatch. But there you go, guys. That's my bracket. Pretty, I wouldn't call it normaled out. I had a couple of teams getting eliminated early that probably most people wouldn't. But you know what? Hey, like I said, you got to take some risks. I would like to have had Philly a little bit higher, but I'm still on the fence with them. If I could change it, I would, but I don't know what the COVID situation is and all that. They could come out and be fine. And I hope they do. I hope they come out and they're fine and they prove themselves and they show people what they can do. And they can start building on some consistency because I do think they look good at points. But that's something to keep in mind when you're making your selections. But that's going to do it, guys, for this episode. Got the bracket out of the way. I'm going to try and get a midway middle of the week kind of thing going on next week. It's a strange week, but the matches are all late, so I should be able to get something work together. My editing things now work faster, so as far as like the video renderings and all that kind of jazz and technical bullshit, better PC, faster rendering, video up faster, etc., what have you. That being said, thanks a lot for joining me, guys. All your support's greatly, greatly appreciated. It really is. And, you know, the last video did really well, and I thank all you guys for, especially some of you new guys coming in. Thanks a lot. It means a lot to me. I've been doing this for 5 years. I love it, and I'll do it until the league is gone. It's fun for me. I love talking Overwatch League, and I love talking with you guys about it. So let me hear what your bracket predictions are, and you know who you got winning. I'm going in a different direction than I normally do. I usually end up picking Shanghai or something like that, or Dallas, or the Glads lately. I'm going with the Shock. Why not? They look good. Fuck it. If you're new, just stopping by. Thanks a lot for coming in. If you hit a like, hit a subscribe, that'd be great. All the YouTube jazz helps me out in the algorithms and all that, and that's how some of you guys found me. So, thank you very much. All right, this is Misfit. I'm out. Everybody stay safe, have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you on the next one.